afternoon and welcome to Biztech's Asian Midday Market Watch, powered by Rajhi Bank, Malaysia. Phan Vee Leung, founder and CIO of Track Record Asia out of Singapore, is our guest today. Now, Vee Leung, welcome to the show.
Hey, hi, Brian. Thanks. Let's talk about markets.
Yeah, let's talk about markets, starting with the crypto markets. Now, Bitcoin is at 28,899.7. It's down 3.12%. Ethereum is at 1,750.03. It's down 9.71%. Now, across looking at regional stock markets, we start with the SGX. That's up 0.45%. Now, across the rest of the region, we've got the KLCI, which is down 0.18%, but Shanghai is up 0.52%. The ASX All Ordinaries is up 1.07%. The Nikkei is up 0.69%. The Hang Seng is up sharply at 2.95%. And rounding up the numbers, we've got the Kospi, which is up 1.02%. Now, V, what's your take on how markets have performed in the first half of the day?
I think there's a number of things. It's also following on the positive performance of the U.S. stock markets last night. U.S. stock indices had a strong rally with Nasdaq ending up about more than 3%, so that's leading off with a positive risk sentiment in Asia. But also, I think in China specifically, there's this renewed initiative to boost economic growth. I think that's starting to look very positive for investors. And Alibaba and Baidu, they reported very strong earnings last night. So the earnings beat led to their stocks rallying more than 12% each. So I think that's a great news to start the markets of today.
Now, V, I think what we really need to discuss is the teleconference yesterday by the Chinese leadership, which is unprecedented in China, all aimed at basically assuring markets that the economy will be boosted. What's your take on that teleconference and that sort of intervention at this stage?
As you pointed out, it is unprecedented at this for a conference that engages officials at so many levels, right? From very high leadership to mid-level to even low-level, kind of depending on where they're dialing in from. And the numbers were big, right? And it's coming off as a very strong commitment from the government to boost growth and ensure that unemployment doesn't rise further. And also one of the topics that they discussed, which was I think was very important, was inflation and food security. So I think we're going to see more commitment, more policies being implemented across all levels by the Chinese government to ensure that they're not too far away from their growth objective of 5.5% this year. So by various accounts, some banks are already projecting 4 point something and as low as 3, low 3 on the low 3 handles. So I think that's got that has the government very worried. They're not in the position to weather an economic slowdown with high inflation and rising unemployment.
So on the flip side of the equation, and what you just mentioned in terms of growth forecast has tended to be all on the negative side of 5.5% as opposed to the positive side of the 5.5% projected by China. No one's actually projecting that it's going to be higher than the official estimates, which is a big change from the past. How is that then going to impact Chinese tech? Because basically it looks like there is a renewed a gloves off approach towards the Chinese tech companies.
Well, yes, I think after almost a year of beating down on Chinese tech with various clampdowns, I think the government now is willing to take a step back and letting the market forces let the markets develop further. I think maybe the beaten down tech stocks will start to perform again. because their business models are sound. Just need to comply with clearer regulations, right? Previously, there were really no guidelines on how they could, what they must do with uh, consumer data, what sorts of practices were considered monopolistic. But at least now there's a bit of a guideline that they know what they need to do, and once they adhere to that, I think the companies will start to do well again.
Now, V, you've been a trader working for large banks across the world over 2 decades. Where do you see the opportunities now for traders, especially in this sort of volatile markets?
You mean globally? Okay, cool.
Globally?
So I think uh, one thing we need to adapt to is that in the last 20 years, as you said, that there's no persistently, we've not been through an environment of persistently high inflation. And that is not just you and I haven't seen it before. It's just generally no one has seen it before, and policymakers have not been conducting policies in an environment of high and persistently high inflation. So I think for now, until we get a clearer picture of what the trajectory of inflation is, volatility is going to remain high. We're going to have wild swings on a daily basis, as we see most days now. But there are sectors that continue to outperform. The energy sector, for instance, the demand and supply dynamics is totally skewed towards higher prices. There's been constant underinvestment for years now. Nobody in their right mind would invest in production facilities when just 2 years ago you saw negative prices on oil.
Exactly.
And you have many regulators hating on carbon producing technologies, right? So it's almost impossible for an oil company, for example, to convince banks to lend them money to increase production, right? But this is what is necessary. So this previously higher prices tend to be the cure for higher prices as more production facilities come online, more supply comes online. But I think now we are at this juncture where there's chronic underinvestment and there's growing demand and there's restricted supply, and the geopolitical situation is such that some supply is not available to the world. So I think we have a constant push for higher prices in this sector. So it is one of the few sectors that I think will continue to outperform regardless of the inflation picture or the Federal Reserve's policy.
Now, V, thank you very much for coming on this show. Thanks for your insights.
Thanks. Take care.
Now, we've been speaking to Phan Vee Leung, the founder and CIO of TrackRocker Asia out of Singapore, on Biztech's Asian Midday Market Watch, powered by Rajhi Bank, Malaysia. I'm Brian Fernandez. This video and podcast will be on our website, www.biztech.asia, as well as Rajhi Bank's social media platforms. Please like and subscribe to our various platforms. Thank you very much for tuning in.